Hi guys, what's up? Welcome to episode 11 of Sport Vitamins. Today we have an athlete, one of the best athletes I've ever worked with. Now he plays in Italy. His name is Josh Owens. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, how you doing, Robbie? Nice to
I'm
be here.
I'm doing great. Thanks for being with us today. So let's start this free-flowing conversation with a quick question. I've always wanted to ask you about this last year, but I didn't do it. Tell me, how is flying that high? Because I'm 6 feet tall. I barely can touch the rim, so I wanna know how you feel.
Um, so I mean, it's really fun. It's quite amazing. I mean, I'm obviously getting older now, and maybe I don't jump as high as I used to, but um, there are moments when a play will happen, and I'll go up for an alley-oop or a terribly thrown pass, and sometimes I just surprise myself. Where I'll make a shot or make a dunk, and I'll be like, "Oh, didn't think that was gonna happen." So that's like the best way to describe it. Yeah.
If you're a point guard, you definitely want Josh to be on your team. That's for sure.
I save a lot. I've saved quite a few assists for some point guards.
Okay, so Josh, you're definitely a hard worker. I remember you last year. You were part of the Breakfast Club with
Yeah.
Deshaun Butler and Amari Stoudemire. We were meeting up every day before practice and like 2 hours before practice, working out. What do you like about working out? I,
What do I like about working out? I mean, for me, I guess staying healthy, taking care of your body. I mean, that's a lifestyle for me. Obviously, it's my job. It's a big part of my job, staying healthy. And I think as you kind of get older and more mature in this sport or in any sport, really, kind of understanding that link of how your health uh, and all the little things you do outside the court, how that affects your career and your longevity. Um, I think that plays a huge role in why I think it's so important, why I enjoy it. Um, Even when I'm not playing, yeah, I love to do it.
what do you do in order to take care of your body?
Oh man, all the little things. Definitely stretching, a lot of mobility, the strength and having I really focus on trying to have a strong core. More recently, I've extended kind of the care for my body outside of just the physical part and also working on my mind and meditation. And this year I'm starting, I've been doing like a short yoga routine and some meditation right when I wake up. And it's been great. Just focusing on those little things, even sleep. I think we talked about this a little bit last
Yeah.
year. Um, I don't know. I think I'm just a person that always likes to look for some type of um, not only for me, but for the sport too, some little competitive advantage. So I'm sure we'll talk about it reading, but I try to find little things that I can do. Like I said, last year I got really big on tracking my sleep and understanding the quality of sleep and how that's affecting my body and my performance. So little things like that.
Do you still track your sleep?
I do. My Apple Watch right here. I actually just tracked my. I just looked at my results from last night, and they were pretty good.
They were pretty
I'm
good.
pretty.
Actually, I started tracking my sleep 2 weeks ago, and I'm not satisfied at all with it. I need to
Well,
sleep more.
so this is actually what I found when I started tracking it, and I've had this conversation with a few people. Um, the first results I got, I had really overestimated how much sleep I was getting and how good a sleep I was getting. So the first couple of weeks of results I was getting, I was like, wow, I'm really bad at sleeping, you know? And then what I found kind of happened is I got a little bit, almost like a little bit anxious. Like I would go to sleep anxious, thinking about, okay, am I sleeping okay? I'd be waking up in the middle of the night, looking at my watch, seeing like what time it is. And it actually took a while before I kind of got a nice little routine and kind of calmed myself down a little bit and stopped thinking about the sleep while I'm trying to sleep. So it was a while before I started getting consistently good sleep.
I've read a few articles about sleep, of course, and about sleep related to basketball. And for example, you also have an increased percentage, shooting percentage, if you sleep at least 7.5 hours a night.
Yeah.
That's huge for a basketball player. I mean, it's huge for all the athletes, especially for a basketball player. If you think about increasing your percentage, just sleeping one extra hour, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
And okay, what do you look for from your strength coach? Because you spend a lot of time with your strength coaches, of course.
Sure. Um, I mean, for me, I'm looking for a strength coach that is obviously we're gonna be able to have some like healthy communication about what I think my body needs, what they think my body needs, and designing like a plan that we're both comfortable with. I mean, for someone in my position, for a lot of professional athletes that are switching teams every year, I think it's really difficult to kind of hit it off immediately, because obviously some coaches are more inelastic in how they approach their program. They have something that they have in mind and they want you to do it. Um, and that's where I think also it comes a benefit when you kind of know your body, and you've been taking care of your body for a long time in a professional way. Then you can kind of come to your strength coach, the new strength coach that you have, at a certain level of understanding where you can have a healthy conversation, give him the history of whether it's your injuries, what you've been doing in the past. And when you can do that, I think it's much easier to kind of have that conversation where you guys design something that is going to work for both of you, where the athlete's not fighting the strength coach and the strength
Of
coach
course.
isn't getting frustrated with the athlete. So that's what I always try to do. I always try to have that open conversation when I first get in contact with a new strength coach, and again, just tell them about my history, let them know to a certain level what I do know about. Obviously I'm not a strength coach, but having played this game at a high level for more than 10 years, including college, if you're professional about it, you can learn quite a bit by taking cues from the strength coaches that you've had. So I think that's a huge benefit, and I think that's kind of the way I approach it every year.
And how do you prepare for the season?
Oh man, it's changed. It's changed kind of every year. As I've gotten older, I've adjusted my approach. In the off season, when I was younger, I remember I took like a week off after my first professional season, and then I was like, I got to jump right back into it. Um, and I don't think I gave my body enough time to rest, and I came back the next season just dog tired, just body still sore from the last season, sore from all the stuff I did in that summer. Um, and now I always focus on taking a few weeks off completely from everything, just to let my body mind reset. And then I'll start, lightly getting back into like the weight room and just on the feet track or field or something, just doing a little bit of
Hmm.
running. And then it's a couple of weeks after that I actually pick up a basketball. And then, I try to hit a flow where by the time it's training camp, I'm in a good, healthy flow. Maybe not top of my fitness, but I know that training, as a foreigner coming over into Europe, I know that training camp is going to be 3 weeks to a month long. Um, so I don't want to come to training camp 100% and then start beating myself down. I still want to be growing going into training camp.
Sure. Do you always work out in the same facility during summertime?
Over the last couple of years, I've gotten pretty consistent about two places that I work out. When I'm back in the States, I usually split my time between New York and California. Um, so when I'm in New York, I work out with a basketball trainer over at the NBA Players Association. I'll spend half of my summer there, and then usually spend a couple of weeks out at Stanford. And that staff. I mean, that's another home for me. So they're always welcome. They're always welcoming us back. They give us full access to the facilities and everything, and that's great. So those are the two places I spend most of my time in the off season.
Great. So a lot of our listeners are young strength coaches, and I'm pretty sure they're curious about knowing, for example, um, your summer routine, your workout summer routine, and also your in-season routine.
Okay. Um, in the off season, I mean, that's when I kind of load up a little bit more with obviously heavier weights, higher reps. I actually spend more time in the weight room actually lifting lifting weights. Yeah, I mean that's when you're building your body back up. But still, I think the main focus of all of my work is always getting a stable core and being able to do functional movements that are related to basketball. So I know we talked about that when we first met. Um, because I just remember when I was in early on in college, and I mean I came to college really skinny, and I was like, okay, I got to put on a lot of weight, and I need to be big, I need to be strong, and I think a little bit confused size with strength and functionality. So I put on a whole bunch of weight, but I didn't necessarily like the way I moved. And now, kind of as I've tailored that over the years and years and years, working with different strength coaches, um, again, now it's so much more about stability, functional movement, and having a strong core. So during the season, those are the things I focus on. I mean, the weights aren't as heavy, obviously, during the season. You're getting a lot of wear and tear running and all that through practice. So, um, yeah, that's kind of that's kind of the main philosophy that I kind of take when going into off season and during season.
As a strength coach, I always think that there are certain players that you can help improving, and other athletes, other players that you just need to manage and keep healthy. And yeah, of course, because they're gifted
Sure,
and talented and
absolutely.
physically talented. And like for example, going back to your bounce, is that something that you work on, or that's a gift?
Well, it's a little it's both. Certainly, it's both. I do have to say, when I was younger, I mean, young, like middle school, like 12, 13, my dad, I think he's the one that kind of, you know, laid the foundation for all of that. He was taking us to the track every Saturday and Sunday morning running, but then he also like learned about plyometrics. And he had his books and stuff, and he was teaching us, had us doing plyometric exercises starting, yeah, when I was sixth, seventh grade. So I specifically remember the summer that we first started doing it. And I had just started kind of hitting a growth spurt, but I was still like really uncoordinated and like lanky and weak. And we started doing plyometrics. And I remember one summer I jumped from like touching the net or whatever, and then that I think it was sixth or seventh grade, like I was dunking, not in games, but I dunked for the first time. I was like, okay, wow, this stuff works. Let's keep doing this. So I think I learned pretty early about movements and like jumping correctly and jumping mechanics and all that. And obviously that got refined as I started working with professional strength coaches and stuff like that.
Does your discipline come from?
Oh, for my dad, for my parents, for my dad, my parents, my mom, my dad. Like I said, my dad was in the military, so um, he was quite strict and quite disciplined. And then, like I said, Saturday, Sunday morning, 6 a.m. doesn't matter. We were up running or doing some type of exercise.
That's great. And another thing that I like about players like you is that you guys are able to set a tone in practice, and that's something really, really important. Uh, Tell us something about it.
Man, well, I would say in practice, I mean, the season is long, and every day, everybody's not going to be having their best day. Everybody's not going to have the greatest energy. Everybody has things that are going on the court, off the court, that affect kind of their mood and attitude when they come into the day. And again, like some days, what guys like to say is, I just don't got it. I just don't got it. So in terms of setting a tone, I mean, for me, I know how important that is just to help the flow of practice and help the energy and help practice be something that's beneficial and valuable to everybody because no one wants to come into the gym and waste time. So you want to get something out of it, even if your legs are hurting or you're just mentally not fully there. You still want to get something out of the day. So that's kind of how I always approach it and try to bring some type of energy. Just to kind of spur other guys. Because all it takes is one, and then that'll rub off on somebody else, and suddenly you got a group of guys that are like, okay, we can at least get through this practice at the very least. And I think that's really important for a team's morale and chemistry and energy.
Yeah, energy is contagious.
Yeah, exactly,
I really
exactly.
believe it. Okay, let's switch gears and let's talk about traveling. I know that
Sure,
you like to travel a lot,
I
and
love this stuff.
you also have the chance to travel a lot because of your job.
Sure.
You've traveled quite a bit here in Europe. I mean, you played in a lot of different countries.
Yeah.
Tell us
Um,
something.
Well, I mean, one, I'll just say, and just broadly about travel, I enjoy traveling and especially living in different countries because I like immersing myself in other cultures and learning how other people that I am not familiar with, how they do things that I am familiar with. So that probably sounds a little weird, but I like seeing how people do things differently, in terms of how they live their life, in terms of design of whatever cities. I just like to learn, and a lot of that happens by being in environments that are foreign to you. So that's probably the philosophy of why I love travel. And yeah, obviously playing basketball internationally, and I've played on teams that play in Euro Cup, Champions League before, so you get travel that way, and that's just been a blessing, and something that I always try to take advantage of, just soaking everything in, being able to see all these places, and I really enjoy it. And then of course, when I'm out here, every once in a while, you might have 1 or 2 days off. Maybe 3 days off and be able to, hop on a quick flight and go somewhere that you haven't been and just really, and explore a new city, explore a new country. And I love that. I love that aspect of my job. And again, it's nothing short of a blessing.
Yeah, I remember you being the first one at breakfast, ready with your camera when we were on the
Yeah,
road every time.
yeah. I mean, I enjoy photography, and I think photography is a way of kind of making memories and kind of taking souvenirs in a way because I don't like to buy a lot of things when I'm traveling. I don't like to carry a whole bunch of bags and all that. So I feel like photography is an easy way to take a very personal souvenir, from places that I go. And yeah, I love it.
And what would you recommend to a young basketball player that just came here overseas?
Young basketball player that's just coming overseas, man, I would say just recognize the opportunity. Not obviously not just on the court, because yes, there's great opportunity to be playing the game and getting paid to play the game that you love, but broaden your perspective and kind of recognize the other opportunities that you have to grow as a person, grow as a young individual. Again, and being in these rare opportunities to see different places. There's a lot out there. You got to get outside of your comfort zone, certainly a little bit, to kind of take advantage of those opportunities and explore a little bit. But if you think about it, there's very rare. It's a very rare experience. They can you can ask anybody, whether it's your family, friends, people back home. Um, it's not something very common, and I think it's very special.
Okay. And how was your transition from college basketball in the United States to professional basketball in Europe?
Hmm. Um, I actually found I didn't find the transition too difficult. So at my college, I went to Stanford University. During the time I was there, had a great coach Johnny Dawkins, who really focused on playing as a team and the technical part of the game, reading the game, and all of that. So that transition wasn't too tough, as compared to if you were saying like the NBA game to coming overseas. I think maybe college is a little bit closer to international ball than the NBA is to international ball. Um, so I didn't find it too tough. Most of the adjustment was, non-basketball stuff, and that wasn't too difficult either.
Okay, you just mentioned Stanford. What does Stanford mean to you?
Man, Stanford, Stanford is like I said earlier, it's a second or third home. I've lived so many places, but it's like a second home, and it was probably some of the most important 5 years of my life that I spent there. Not only for basketball, but for all the things I want to do, and then started exploring after basketball. So, like I said, I'm always back there at least a few days or a couple of weeks during the summer.
Usually, guys that go to Stanford, they don't go there just for basketball, right?
Of course not.
It's a
No,
high
no.
level school, high level education over there.
Well, this is the recruiting pitch that, and this is also like kind of a phrase you hear echoed across campus, especially on the athletic end of campus. They always say Stanford's not a 4-year decision; it's a 40-year decision.
Hmm.
Meaning that college is for 40 years, but that relationship and the decision you're thinking 40 years into the future about the rest of your life. And I think that's very much so true.
Great. Uh, do you consider your brain as a muscle? I read
uh,
this quote.
uh, sure, yeah, it definitely definitely feels like a muscle sometimes when I start thinking too much and starts cramping up. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's something like that. It's something certainly a muscle in the sense that you can work it out, you can exercise it. So yeah, I would say definitely in that way, yeah.
How do you make sure to exercise as much as you can?
Oh man, I would say by taking advantage of the free time that I do have outside of um, sport while I'm out here. Because as a professional athlete overseas, I'm alone, so I'm not spending a whole bunch of time with family or anything like that while I'm out here. So there is quite a bit of free time, or there's long spans of free time, and um, it's up to you how you decide to use that. You could watch TV, you can watch Netflix, watch series, movies. You can play video games, or you can. I personally like to read or study, find something new to study, um, because I don't know. I just don't. I'm like I said, I like to learn, and I don't want any of this to go to waste. So if I have the free time, I want to take advantage of it.
You read a lot. Like how many?
I read a bit. I read a little bit. Read a little bit.
How many books a year do you read?
So my goal is to read one book every 1 or 2 weeks. This past year, I think I ended up reading 30 or 31 books, um, which was pretty good. It was a little more than a book every 2 weeks, which was good, and trying to do the same thing this year. I mean, the whole thing with me and this and reading and trying to keep up. This past year was the first year that I did something like this where I tried to reach a goal, number wise. And what I was worried about was being so concerned with reaching the goal that I was just kind of just like speeding through books and then like not retaining or comprehending anything. Um, but that didn't happen, fortunately. What I found is if you read what you're interested in and kind of ask questions and you're curious about something, like naturally you just dig deeper and deeper into books and you literally just fly through them. So yeah, I love reading. I love it.
Yeah, I tried to compete with you last year, but it was unsuccessful.
Hey,
I
hey,
finished this year, the year at 23.
oh, that's great.
Yeah,
That's great. Yeah, that's like almost a book every 2 weeks, like 52
yeah.
weeks in a year. Yeah, 26. Yeah. So
But I started off
th-
2020, hit the ground running. I'm already at three.
there you go. See?
There we go. Yeah.
And it feels good, right?
It feels great, man. It feels
Yeah.
great. I also remember you reading books right before games. That was impressive because usually you see players like listening to music or
Yeah.
trying to get pumped up or playing video games or whatever. You were there sitting in your locker and reading books. That was
Uh,
weird. I
I
mean,
think, yeah, well, I think it can be like calming to your mind, especially before a game when you're about to switch into this mode that's super intense and everything. Like sometimes it's nice to just like detach and like enjoy just pure calm, and then okay, here we go. Some people can, I can do that. I can also do that by listening to, some softer music before a game. Or, I mean, if I have my iPad, my book on hand, I can sit down and read for a little bit.
do you also listen to podcasts?
I do. I do. There's a few podcasts I listen to. I don't listen to them as regularly, because a lot of that time started getting taken up by reading. Um, But I think the podcast that kind of got me to fall in love with podcasts was How This Is Built. I think it's an NPR podcast where they interview business leaders and they talk about kind of their journey from the bottom to, going through the successes and failures of starting a business to, how that growth has changed. So yeah, I think those are another great way to spend time.
Interesting. Okay, let's go back to talking about how you take care of your body. And do you also follow a diet or?
um, so this year, I would say I'm pretty much majority. I like to say majority plant-based. I don't like to say vegan or anything like that because there are occasions when, like when we're traveling with the team, like this year where I'll have like some fish, um, when I'm in the hotel with the team. But during the week, when I'm cooking for myself, I cook probably 75 to 80% of my meals throughout the week. It's all plant-based. Um, no meat, no dairy, anything like that. So
But
um,
living in Italy is tough, right?
yeah, it's tough, especially living. I'm in Reggio Emilia, so I'm like right by Parma. I'm right by. They got the Parma ham. They got the cheese.
Wow, I miss it. Prosciutto, I
Yeah,
miss it,
yeah,
man.
exactly. But like I said, I like to go by the majority, and just say majority plant-based because again, on occasion, I'll indulge. It's kind of hard not to. But there were the 2 years before where I was in when I was in Jerusalem, when I was in Turkey for my second year, where I was pretty much purely what people would say is vegan. And that was certainly an adjustment, something new to kind of learn, especially while playing sports and kind of figuring out a balance about what fit with my body and what felt right. And then coming into this year, that's where I said, okay, I'll be okay when I'm on the road, if I, I have a piece of fish, I don't think it's going to kill me. I think when you start talking about diet and eating, I think it's more about the habits and the lifestyle. So if again, a majority of the time you're doing what's right for your body or what you think is right for your body, then it's not gonna one anomaly of a day where you eat something like fish. I don't think it's gonna kill you.
I've listened to a lot of nutritionists and sport nutritionists. They were saying that, of course, the healthiest diet is a plant-based diet,
Sure.
which doesn't mean that you need to go vegan or be vegetarian, but it means that you need to eat a lot of
Yeah,
veggies and fruit.
exactly. That needs to comprise, your meals need to be comprised mostly of that. Exactly. Um, Yeah,
How,
and the thing what I like to say when guys ask me like, "Are you vegan?" Like whatever, I say no. Like I'm majority plant-based because you can be vegan eating potato chips and drinking Coca-Cola. Like,
true, true.
so I like to focus on the content of my meals, and like we just said, it's about getting as many plants and leafy greens as possible.
How important is for you, in your opinion, for a professional athlete to know how to cook?
Oof, man. Um, It it depends on. I think it depends on like what your budget is.
True.
I like to cook because I literally enjoy the creativity in cooking, and I also enjoy being able to make as much food as I want. uh, when you go out, I feel like it's a whole ordeal of having to go out the house. You got to go. You got to sit down. You got to find somewhere that's gonna make the food that you want to eat, and hope it's good, and then you got to worry about waiting and portions and all of that. So um, I like to cook because it's convenient for me. Just I know what I like to eat. I know how much I like to eat, and I can control all of that by cooking for myself. Of course, there's days where we have two practices, and I get home after that second practice, which might have been a tough one, and I'm just like, man, all right. I knew I said I was gonna cook, but let's order something, or let's go out and find something to eat. Um, Most times, yeah, I love to cook.
Is it tough now having two practices a day, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, compared to last year when we were playing twice a week?
Um, I mean, it was certainly an adjustment, kind of getting back onto a playing once a week schedule after however many years I'd been playing twice a week. Um, but it's been good because I mean, eventually you kind of find a balance, and um, the morning workouts are usually weights and some light skill work and stuff like that. So I've actually enjoyed it because I think it helps me. It's helped kind of find the better rhythm where you're not
Okay.
traveling in the middle of the week, and so I've enjoyed it.
Okay, great. uh, Last year, I remember you were using a hashtag unfinished business. Do you
Yes,
still use it?
yeah, I do. Yeah.
What does it mean?
What does it mean? I started using that. Was it my first or second year in Turkey? Um, and it started as something because we had gone, no, it was my second year. We had gone to the Turkish Cup finals. We ended up losing, I think, to Efes. Um, and before that game, I had written it on my shoes because it was like we're there, but there's another game. The business isn't finished. Like we got to complete this. And then when we lost, it really took it took another kind of meaning because it was like, all right, we lost the Turkish Cup, we got to get revenge, and we got to finish this thing out and make up for it in another way. And then we ended up going to the finals and losing to Fenerbahce, and then it kind of never died. And then that's when I kind of was like, well, hey, the business is never finished, whether we won, whether we lost. You get back on the horse, you start going again. And I kind of apply that to basketball, and I apply that to life. When I'm done with basketball, whenever that is. The business isn't finished either. Like basketball is not the end all be all. There's going to be another transition. There's going to be another kind of challenge. There's going to be a new fight after basketball where the business must go on. So that's kind of how I think of it and why I kind of grasp onto it and why I write it everywhere on my shoes, whatever.
If you're a young basketball player that wants to go pro, give him a tip.
If you're young, how young are we talking?
Well, let's say 16, 17.
Okay, yeah. I would say a couple of things would I say. For a young player, I think one to go pro, it's you got to be coachable. There's a lot of talented guys that I've seen that have had opportunities that have lost opportunities because they're not coachable. I think that's huge. And you gotta know why you want to do it. Because on that road to becoming a professional, there's gonna be some ups, but there's gonna be some really deep downs where you're gonna have to kind of dig in and like remotivate yourself. You gotta have perseverance, and you gotta have persistence, and you gotta be able to motivate yourself. And you gotta be your biggest. A lot of times you're gonna have to be your biggest fan, your biggest cheerleader, because you're definitely gonna have times where it feels like no one believes in you, or believes in the dream that you have of going professional. Um, and other than that, you got to be disciplined. Like if you don't have discipline, you can you can throw it all out. You can throw it all out the window. So those would kind of be the main things.
Okay, great, Josh. So we finished the episode with 3 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Okay. The first one is a must-read book.
Ooh, must read book. The must read that I give people a lot is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. His memoir and his journey of building Nike is incredible. You read
Yeah, great book.
you can back that up.
Great book.
Yeah, I love that book. I recommend it to pretty much everybody, no matter what they say they want to read, because I think it covers all bases.
Okay. A city that you would like to visit.
Ooh, a city that I want to visit. Um, ooh, that's tough. There's so many cities and non-cities that I want to go to. How about a country that I want to visit?
Okay, let's go with a country.
I want to spend some time down in Indonesia.
Okay. Why?
Yeah. Um, I wanna make it out to the Komodo Island, see the Komodo dragons. But I also want to go snorkeling with whale sharks.
Nice.
So we'll see if that happens. Hopefully soon.
Your favorite exercise in the weight room?
Favorite exercise in the weight room?
Bicep curls doesn't count.
No, no. Um, I would probably maybe kettlebell swings.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Josh. So that is some valuable content for a lot of our listeners. And if someone wants to follow you, where can they find you?
You can find me probably on Instagram at J_C Owens. I also have a website that really needs to be updated, but it's joshcowens.com.
Thank you very much, Josh. I really
No,
appreciate you.
I appreciate you having me. I enjoyed the time.
It was a very good episode, and alla prossima.
Alla prossima.